guys, minions, and welcome to unMadeGaming. We are here for a brand new season of a brand new show where what is this? I'm the GM. And what is this? Johnny's a player. Who's that guy? Who let him play on any show? That's not where he belongs.
This is a really bad idea.
Yes, the chain on the desk has broken, and he has made his way to a player seat. We'll fix that soon. Give me a few weeks. That being said, this is a brand new show. This is called Paradise City. We are playing some City of Mist, which is one of my favorite games. Despite the fact that I've never run it, this won't be a shit show, I promise. But if you like this kind of shit show and you want to support the things we do here, please go check us out on Patreon. That's the best way to do that. Or subscribe here on Twitch. And if you want to chat about this show and all the other shows we have going on this season, check out our Discord. Links for those both down below. The last thing is, in the bottom right-hand corner, you will see the corruption bar. When that bar fills, it serves two purposes. One is I get to do whatever the hell I want to these players. And two, every single dollar that goes into that jar goes back to these wonderful, beautiful, amazing faces that you see here before you, including the ones that are absent, which is our friend Sam. He's not here today. It is Passover? Pretty sure it's Passover today. And
today's Passover.
So
then there's Maundy, Thursday, which always confused me because of the name.
So I think he is doing his Passover stuff. That being said, I'm going to turn things over to myself. This is very strange to introduce myself to my own shit. All of my normal scripted things that I say that are programmed in my brain don't translate properly. Anyway, let's play some Paradise City. The scene is set. Skyscraper, exterior, nighttime. It's raining. Two figures can be seen looking down over the lip of the rooftop, staring down, as the camera slowly backs away from the top of the roof. A voice is heard. The Yamashiro Building, the shining jewel atop the pile of shit that is Paradise City. A beacon of hope for the future, or a corrupt behemoth waiting to swallow the city. Why here of all places? Why now? Why did she have to walk into your office, Sam? And why didn't you turn that case down right then and there? It's too late now. What's done is done, and the die is cast. The camera rotates to reveal the corpse of private investigator Sam Spade, lying dead on the rain-slick pavement, blood pooling around his head. Welcome to Paradise City. The camera pans. It is a new day, a new dawn. We are 1 week in the future. You're at a church. Our Lady of Celestial Providence. This is the day of Sam Spade's wake. Who is the first to arrive at the wake of private investigator Sam Spade?
As a cop, probably me.
As a cop, probably? Okay. How do you arrive to this wake, this somber event?
I'm wearing blacks. Probably not my cop formal uniform, but wearing blacks, probably dingy suit, but it gets the job done. I arrive early. I park around the corner so I can watch and see what cars arrive, and sit near the back so I can watch who comes in when.
Interesting. How long do you stay there to watch?
Cars, I'd say probably I'm thinking she gets there an hour ahead. So for 30 minutes, she's watching cars arrive.
Okay.
Until she just decides to go sit in the back, and then she could watch afterwards, need be, if she has the time.
Sure. So you sit there for about 30 minutes. You're watching the cars kind of come in and out. It's a veritable cavalcade. There are so many different cars here. There are several police cruisers sort of pull up, and you see that cops will get out in beat uniforms because they're clearly on shift, just popping in to pay their respects. You know that Sam Spade is a retired cop. He is a rather venerable, retired officer from the New Arkham Police Department, where you yourself are a member. So it's not surprising to see these kind of cars. You do see a very expensive. It's not quite a limousine, but it's slightly longer. It's like an elongated car, and it looks like it's probably from the 50s, right? It looks like one of those kind of old-timey kind of cars with the white wall rims, the white wall tires rather. And there is this obnoxious hood ornament on the front of it. That's kind of like a winged angel with the wings kind of tipped backwards. and you see a man get out of the passenger side front of the car, walk around the front, and open the rear suicide door. And you see someone you recognize immediately. This is Anatoly Vidalis. You know him as the uncatchable, unpinnable crime boss of the entire city. No matter what he gets hung up for, he always slips out of this kind of thing. He's untouchable. Everyone knows his name, everyone knows his restaurants, everyone knows his dealings, but no one can catch him. He steps out, and you see he's a large, heavy-set man. Think like Kingpin from Daredevil, and you see that the vehicle kind of like the suspension springs back to life as he kind of strides out of this car, and he walks cane in hand in a fine black suit up the stairs of the Church of Our Lady of Celestial Providence to pay his respects, you assume, to one Sam Spade. Who is the next to arrive before Miss Artemis enters the building?
Maggie's gonna show up last.
Okay, so that means it is Mr. Miller.
That is correct. Alexander Miller, also known as Friday, pulls up in a service car of some kind. Not the best limousine, not the best service car, but appropriate enough Cadillac. Steps out. And what's the weather like again? Is it raining?
It's raining. I will say, for the sake of noir, assume it's raining unless I say otherwise. That's the general presence of the city. It is near constant rain. We live in dark Seattle.
Okay, and other question. Is the wake taking place in the evening, in the afternoon? Is this a morning affair?
This is late afternoon, early evening. Like, this is probably like 7 p.m. was the call for the wake.
So stepping out of the car, Friday, first you see his umbrella sort of shoot out from the door, and as it opens up, it flares, and he steps under it and stands tall, thin, finely dressed, even for a suit appropriate to a wake. Trench coat, tailored specifically to his physique. Dark glasses over his eyes, fedora hat. He scans around and looks at the crowd currently assembled. Who does he see besides Vidalis, and does he see Artemis?
So Artemis is in her car, still outside. So she hasn't made her way inside yet. But what you
Right,
see,
but would he see her?
You said you parked around the corner. How inauspicious are you trying to be, Cherry?
Like, if somebody knew that was her car, they would know it. But
Sure. And you're in your personal vehicle, right?
yes,
Yeah.
which is why I think not many people know
Sure.
what her personal vehicle.
Yeah. I will say, Johnny, you can see a car around the corner, and there's a person in it, but they're not in police blues. It's not a cruiser. It's not even an unmarked cruiser. It's just like a personal vehicle. So while that's not strange, but there's just a person kind of waiting out there, you do notice it. Outside, you see, like I said, there's several police cruisers. There's several civilian kind of vehicles, of various makes and models. You immediately recognize Vidalis' vehicle, and you see that there is the church before you. There's a few people kind of gaggled about, as you do in kind of wakes, and there is like three cops in their dress blues, or their police blues rather, sort of standing out there talking. One of them has a cigarette. They're discussing something you can't hear from where you're at, and you can see that there's a flow of traffic in and out of people in kind of mourning outfits. But discerning who's inside, you'd have to kind of get in there to see what's more specifically who's waiting around.
So Friday would, taking all this in for just a second, close the door behind him, make his way up the steps to the entrance, and find a perch under an overhang or awning or near a column to be able to shake out his umbrella and sort of take in the situation and just pay attention.
Sure. Are you just hanging out outside under this awning?
I am, and as I walk by Vidalis, I would nod to him without, there would be no verbal exchange. It would just be a nod of recognition.
Sure.
It basically a sign of respect.
Sure. There's a courteous nod as he kind of passes by you, and he canes his way up the stairs and into the actual church proper. You see that as the door swings open, both doors swing open. There's probably like 30 to 40 people inside. You know that Sam Spade was well recognized. He was a cop on the force for many years. He was a force of good and justice, and he reached an age in which he was, getting too old for this shit, as they say. But you can never leave the game, and so he formed a detective agency and still continued to do the best he could, even in his older age at this point. As far as cops go, right? Unless you're going to become the commissioner or the captain, there's not a lot of desk jobs for a 50 to 60-year-old cop. You're not running the beat anymore. And so you see that there's a throng of people inside. There are, a smattering of police officers. There's a few faces you recognize but can't quite place, likely from possibly Vidalis' operation or several other operations around. Even criminals knew Sam Spade and paid him enough respect. He wasn't someone to be trifled with, and was always like a straight and narrow kind of guy. If you're as long as you're an honest person and not being a shit, you'd never run afoul of Sam Spade. I will say, Artemis, you in your vehicle, you recognize but can't place Johnny's character, Mr. Miller, and it's like. If you're looking at a picture of some criminals, of some ne'er-do-wells, there's always that guy in like the background that like you don't know his name, like he's like third tier and he's never important enough for you to go after, but you just sort of know it. That's the kind of feeling you get from Alexander.
Gotcha.
You're not quite sure where he is, but you just have this hunch that like that's not the best of guys, but I don't know why I feel that way, kind of thing, right? Your 30 minutes has more or less elapsed. Are you headed into this building?
Yes.
Okay. So you exit your vehicle, head up the rain-slick stairs, and you see this Mr. whoever he is standing there, just sort of outside the door, waiting.
I'll probably nod and say evening, just because that's what Artemis would do when she would see people she wasn't necessarily familiar. See if she recognizes the voice instead of the face.
Sure.
See if she gets a reaction.
Artemis is a detective?
Yes. Cop, detective. She's the one that gets called in when it's things look a little suspicious. But she's the kind of detective that walks the beat. She doesn't just wait for something to happen. So the neighborhood she frequents would know her.
As you sort of stop and pause, in front of him and acknowledge them, Friday would sort of look at you and say, "Detective, sad set of circumstances to be crossing your path."
Yeah, he is one of the greats. Did a lot of good for a lot of people. Either side of the street. She gives them a look.
I think that depends on perspective, but I'm not going to try to dissuade you of your opinions.
Fair enough. She goes in, finds a seat in the back corner where she can see as much as she can see.
Friday, you are left alone out here. There is still, gaggles of people coming in and out, but you are essentially alone on these stairs. Artemis, as you walk in the building, you kind of grab a seat. It's your typical church/funeral home setting here. There are, banquet hall style chairs that have that little connector that connects that hooks the chair in, right? Like when you're sitting way too close to the person next to you, kind of thing. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And you can see that there is, church iconography everywhere. The shades are kind of drawn. There are black curtains around them. There is a wreath of flowers. That looks like it was probably presented by the police department. And then there is a much larger, egregious wreath of flowers, which looks like your guess is it was probably provided by the Vidalis family. There are people milling about, groups of people. You see that there is the chief of police is having a conversation with Vidalis. Not entirely suspicious. He's kind of a well-known guy, regardless of what you know him for in the town. And you see that there is the casket at the front. The casket is closed, and standing to where the head side of it would be is a picture, or two easels rather. One of a picture of Sam Spade in his police officer blues, and another picture of him in a suit. And you're just kind of hunkering down in the back and are watching this scene transpire. People kind of come and go. Women in black dresses, veils, gentlemen in suits, kind of all walks of life kind of come in and out of here. At this time, Kitty.
All right. So as people are starting to file into the church and everything, and it's getting a bit more quiet outside, a cab pulls up. And out the back side door pops a little pink umbrella, and Molly steps out. Molly is wearing a black leather jacket, and underneath she has a knee-length, skin-tight dress, and equally beautiful heels, making her quite tall. As she steps out, she looks around, and she may note some people. I'm sure people's heads turn, not always with the most approving look, but she's used to it. It's nothing to face her. So many people may know her, but she doesn't recognize many people, like, personally here. So as she steps out, she quickly skitters up towards the church, closes her umbrella, shakes it off, takes one more look around, and then as she steps inside, she doesn't go to sit. She kind of stands near the back wall by the doors.
Okay. So Friday, you see this cab pull up, and you see, as they say in the classic noir movie, the stems on this name, as she slides out of the back of this cab. And you actually see there's that three group of officers, one that was smoking. You see one of them kind of like whack his buddy and then nod to this woman getting out of the cab. So the attention is drawn to this person. You see her, she kind of walks up the stairs, shakes the umbrella, heads inside, and sort of meanders towards the rear of this, procession. You are now alone outside. The cop stamps his cigarette out, the conversation sort of peters off, and those three begin to enter. What are you doing?
Artie will pay attention for just a little bit longer, lingering for just a couple of seconds longer to see what's going on the street, who's actually still there and paying attention.
Sure. And
then step inside. What do I see?
Are you trying to roll some kind of investigation here, or are you just, being attentive to the outdoors?
I'm being attentive to the outdoors right now.
Okay. So you take another minute. The police officers stamp out their cigarette. They head in, pass you. They kind of nod, not really knowing who you are. But again, this is a funeral. That's kind of commonplace. You wait another minute or two. The night gets a little bit darker. You begin to hear the crickets and the frogs. And you step inside. You are treated to the same kind of, both you and Molly are treated to the same kind of thing. There's black wreaths, there are flowers here, one is egregious, you see the pictures of Sam Spade, and you see people kind of milling about. This is a wake, there is no ceremony here. You are able to pay your respects in any way that you can. What are the three of you doing?
Art's gonna react to Molly.
Okay. Sure.
She's gotta like, oh shit, she's here. Is she still dating my brother? Dear God, she looks good. I'm gonna stare at some flowers now.
Okay.
And anybody could notice this awkwardness of no longer being the investigative together cop, but a flustered person just trying to look at it.
Yeah, I feel like Friday, if anyone, you notice this high school girl routine that just happened in front of you. As the red sort of, it contrasts against the all black attire of everyone in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So you are aggressively staring at flowers as you ignore,
Beautiful.
as you ignore this situation.
It's nature right there.
Yeah. Molly and Friday, what are you two doing in this setting?
Molly's kind of just soaking it all in.
Mm-hmm.
She thought herself quite close to the departed. Never dealt with death very well
Sure.
in her life, or loss. She's lost a lot of things. As she's kind of looking around, she spots Artemis. And it's going to kind of give like a little like side wave.
She is red.
She waves back, but tries not to. It fails at not. Yeah.
And she's just gonna kind of rock back on her heels and keep taking everything in,
Okay.
waiting for the ceremony to begin and end.
Sure. You see people are sort of, talking in groups, kind of moving around, milling about. You notice that as a small group of people kind of clears away on the right-hand side of the building, opposite the windows of the street, there is a small table, a banquet-style table with a black tablecloth, and on it there are small amounts of food, little finger sandwiches, rolls, that kind of thing. And you see that people begin... you realize it's probably about 7:15, 7:20, and people begin to make their way kind of around and form kind of a procession. Again, there's no formal ceremony to this, so they all kind of form up and begin, walking, kneeling in front of the casket, muttering a few words, genuflecting in their own religious way, before kind of passing and continuing past the food of table and kind of meandering back. Some people leave, some people hang about and talk, but the line is kind of forming to pay your last respects to the departed. Friday, what are you doing? You see this awkward situation happen between the two people you saw walk in most recently, and then you begin to see this line form.
Friday, in his most sort of, or in their most sort of casual way, would step up to Molly. Little bit of history there, and looks from her over to Artemis.
Molly, you see this guy in his well-pressed suit, and given your environment and who your usual clientele is, you get that same kind of feeling, right? He's not like a slime ball, but like the other kind of people you've been known to work with. He kind of gives off that look. Like he's far better dressed than all the people around him, but he doesn't look like he's an incredibly rich and famous person kind of thing, right?
Molly, with a smile, turns. You could say there's a little bit of history there. What's it to you?
Just a casual observer. Enjoy the relationships that people express. Always looking for new friends.
Oh, really? What's your name there, mister?
My friends call me Friday. Those who don't call me a friend don't call me at all.
Well, Edwall, I'm Molly.
It's a pleasure. So, Molly, how did you know our friend Sam?
Oh, geez. I got plenty of stories to tell. I've known him for quite a while. But everybody's beginning might be a little private, huh?
Beginning.
You could say we're pretty good friends.
Are you the same kind of friends with the detective over there?
No, not quite.
So I'm assuming that the relationship, or the friendship, should I say, is a little strained.
Are you some kind of detective or something?
No. I'm so sorry. It's my line of work to get to know people and to understand what makes them tick.
And just what is your line of work?
That's not important right now. Just know that if you'd like to be my friend, I'd like to find out if that would work, and maybe we can help each other out, because I'm quite curious to know. Doesn't it seem a little unusual to you, all of this, Sam being dead?
I suppose you could say unusual. I surely haven't really wanted to ever think about him being dead. But it's kind of the way the city is, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't quite add up, though. I'm someone who occasionally knows people who end up being dead, and it's not quite... How should I put this? It wasn't expected. He wasn't expected to be dead.
I suppose I can agree with you on that.
Well, I'm going to go get in line and pay my respects.
Sure.
I'd love to talk to you again, Molly, if I may. I'm always looking for new friends.
Molly's gonna reach. She has a little handbag. She's gonna reach in and pull out a little black card that has some pink etching in it that has the information of the club that she works.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay, dear. I know how to reach you. But thank you.
Oh, he's gonna kind of like lean back holding this. All right, then. He tucks it back in.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been something.
I imagine this to be the tiniest of clutches. Like it only fits that business card.
But somehow she squeezed a lot of it.
Yeah. Like it's like Mary Poppins bag, but it's the tiniest. It's the size of a wallet.
And it kind of reminds me of like the 80s. It's got the really long straps. So it's on her shoulder. It like sits at the bottom of her.
Yeah. Like
how is it decorated?
Mid thigh is what it's. How far as
it's sparkly. I imagine it's sparkly.
If I could give another description, Molly doesn't look rough or beat. Like she is a well-kept woman by, I'm sure, a few different patrons, but most notably someone that probably everyone knows. So she does have jewels on, and her clutch is studded with Swarovski crystals, like really over the top.
I just picture the clutch being like all black, right? Like the black sequin kind of thing with like a pink kiss. It's like,
yes.
It's the only black purse you had, and it just has this egregious pink kiss on it. Friday, you do notice, regardless of whether you needed it or not, you notice that the card that was pulled out belongs to the Kingsmen, a gentleman club in the city here, as you kind of join the procession and wait your turn to pay your respects. Molly, after this exchange, what are you doing? Do you kind of follow behind in that awkward we're going in line together situation?
No, she's going to wait for a few more people to kind of file in behind. She's also going to try her best to be one of the later ones that goes in.
Sure. Okay. Artemis, what are you doing? You see the line start to form. You see an awkward exchange happen between Friday and Molly. What are you doing?
I'm waiting for her to get in line behind her.
Okay. So as the two of you play this waiting game, You both hear snippets of conversation as the larger groups, sort of start to break up and join this procession. All of the groups are kind of what you would, all of the conversations rather, are kind of what you would expect to hear at a wake. They're much like the start of the conversation with Friday and Molly, where it's a shame, he was one of the good ones, so unexpected, I don't know what happened, did he reach out to you? And the conversations kind of shift to no one expecting Sam Spade to commit suicide, which is something that you have sort of intimate knowledge, being in the police department, that this was a rather quick decision. There was an autopsy. The autopsy happened in about half the time it usually takes. And there was an announcement, 1 to 2 days, maybe 3 days after his body was recovered, after the morning his body was recovered, that this was ruled a suicide and that the investigation would no longer be happening. It seems that there's a mixed bag of, like, people are like, oh, Sam, he was kind of run down, that's why he quit the police force, and after Buddy died, that kind of thing. And then there's a few people that are saying, I never expected this, I never would have thought, not Sam, kind of thing, as they join this line. After a few people join, that puts a good 10 feet of distance between yourself and Friday, Miss Molly McGee. You are able to also join this line as well. And you see that happen. You see her wait a few beats, join the line as well. A few more people come. However, you have all waited so long that there's probably only 2 people in between the end of the line and where Molly is, putting you closer than you had anticipated being. So, you are all in this line. It begins to progress slowly as it does. Everyone sort of paying their last respects. Friday, as the first person in the party to get there, you see that the first picture that greets you is a picture of Sam at his current age of 57, in his, normal suit, fedora, black suit, black tie kind of situation. That's the Sam you knew. You see next to him a far younger man, probably in his 30s, dressed in, he's rather muscular, fit, athletic build, in his police blues. This is probably not when he joined the force, and definitely not when he left the force, but sort of somewhere in the middle, probably at his peak officer. You know Sam well enough to know that in the middle of his career, he sort of took a break and became one of the training instructors at the academy. And your best guess is this is probably around that time, judging by how fit he is. So Friday, you see these kind of pictures. You see that there is a wreath placed on one side, a much larger wreath placed on the other side, and a small, probably 8 by whatever picture on the casket because it is closed. You see there's the kneeling platform for you to genuflect in front of, and you are able to pay your respects. What does that look like?
What was Sam's defining vice, or
good question,
defining sort of off the clock characteristic?
Sam was a pillar of virtue. The only thing relatively considerable to be negative or vice-like is that he was a frequent visitor at the Kingsman.
Was his visits to the Kingsman known publicly? Like, was it known what he was doing there?
It wasn't like broadcast, but anyone who knew him knew he went, right? Anyone who knew him more than a random guy in the street. So if you had, if you had any kind of friendly mannerism toward him, you'd probably be aware that he went there. It was almost part of a routine. But you also don't really get the. It's not something he ever talked about. It's not something that anyone really questioned him about, right? But you kind of get the opinion that he wasn't there for any lewd or lascivious acts. He went there because the Gentleman's Club actually has one of the better bars in the place, and it's not every day that you're going to recognize an old cop at what is ultimately a gentleman's club. So he probably went there to not be telling old cop stories, anything like that. So that's the kind of that was the closest he had to a vice. He would have a few drinks at the Kingsman.
Is entry to the Kingsman exclusive? Is it open to any Joe or Jane off the street?
Publicly, it's open to any Joe. You would know that the security there is rather tight, and if you don't, exude a specific dress code or geopolitical, economical worth, you're probably not getting in. There's no entrance fee. You just have to be well-dressed, well-mannered, well-presented, and then the bouncer has to decide to let you in. He sort of has every authority to kick out whoever he doesn't want to let in. You do know, actually, you know what? You do know that the owner of the club, Mr. Gold, you know him probably the best out of anyone that would go to the Gentleman's Club. He runs in similar circles as you do. Although, maybe less publicly.
Right. All right. Final question, I think. What was it that got Sam off the force? Was it a positive thing or a negative thing? Did he retire, or was he forced to retire?
He retired. He retired in his mid-40s because people were pushing towards a desk job, and desk job is not where Sam Spade thrives. He was a beat cop. He took a break, went to an instructor to train the future force. He became a detective, and he worked the crime scene. But he got old. He took there's a few injuries, war wounds, as they say. He's taken a bullet to the leg. He walked with kind of a limp, and he was just getting to that point where let's take you off of the street and give you a more comfortable job. And he said, no, I'm not for that. He tried to force a few more years out, and eventually it was either kind of like a bow out gracefully, or we're going to give you a desk job, and that's kind of where you're going to stay. And he said, nah, I'm good. And shortly thereafter, I think within a year, he formed the Ace of Spades Detective Agency.
Okay. So Friday's going to lean down and, kneel and make sure that he's not actually seen. Put his hand, on the casket itself, just under the picture, and whisper to the casket.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to stay there for about a minute, whispering some things. And then when he's done and he pulls his hand away, there looks to be what looks like a rosary in his hand.
Okay.
And he just places it next to the picture.
Okay.
Stands, straightens himself, and makes his way towards the back of the church.
Okay. As you pay your final respects to a good man of the city, you place your hand on the casket, you deliver your rosary beads, and you stand. We are taken back to the auspicious housing of one Alexander Miller. Describe to me where you live, what it looks like.
It's a posh lifestyle, but not extravagant. He lives in a high-rise in one of the better parts of the city. But it's not, it's not ostentatious. It's not gaudy in there. It's smartly smartly furnished. Very much sort of a minimalism sort of an approach to everything. There's some art on the wall, some different pieces, different styles, different sort of artistic representations, but nothing seems comfortable. Nothing seems lived in. It's very cold. His wardrobe is immaculately managed. The floor is all sort of tiled and very smooth.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few like colors, and when there are colors, they are a stark contrast. For example, he would have a couch in his living room that would be bright red and an otherwise sort of white environment.
Sure.
And maybe a black sort of bookcase with a set of books or whatever, or off to the side. No television, just a couple of lamps, a couch and a bookcase, and a balcony that leads off of the living room. His bedroom is also very much the same. Colors are black and white on the bed, the bedding. A frame, not gaudy, but well sort of like constructed.
Okay. I imagine very Art Deco. Everything's sort of angular kind of thing, right?
Very much so.
Sure.
Very much so.
So we cut back to the high rise of Mr. Miller here, and we see you sort of draped across the couch, this bright fire engine red couch in your otherwise white living room. I imagine there's a south-facing wall of floor-to-ceiling, kind of windows looking out of the high-rise kind of thing.
Right.
And you see, in his suit, hat on the table, the coffee table, so to speak, sort of swilling a glass of whatever kind of whiskey you've given him. Sam stands staring out the window. You see that his gaze is drawn to the skyline of the city here as it is approaching dusk, and you see that he is staring out at what you know to be the Yamashiro Building. And in his gruff kind of tone, he kind of talks over his shoulder to you. Do you have any business at the Yamashiro Building?
Now, Sam, I thought we were friends. You know that I don't speak of my business associates. I don't mix business with pleasure, unless it's something fun. Why do you ask?
This one isn't going to be fun. And he sort of turns back to you, and he has, he's a relatively gruff kind of guy, right? Think like The Fugitive, right? And he places the completely undrinking whiskey, ice cube still kind of floating, this square ice cube still kind of floating back and forth a little bit, on the coffee table, and grabs his hat and begins to walk around behind you on the couch. And he places a hand kind of on your shoulder, not aggressively, but kind of like reassuring, and he says, "Stay out of this one, Miller. Stay out of the Yamashiro Building." And he starts to head towards the door.
As he begins to pull away, Sam's hand still on his shoulder, quick as he can. Hand coming over Sam's. What kind of trouble have you gotten yourself into, Sam?
It's over your head, Miller. And he kind of gives you like a squeeze. It's over your head. And he starts to walk towards the door. You hear the click-clack of his nice wingtip shoes as he cascades across your tile floor.
Friday stands, turns, watching him walk down sort of the hallway leading to the doorway that exits the apartment. Mm-hmm. There are very few things that are over my head, things that I cannot dabble into. Sam, what are you doing?
You see him reach one hand to the knob of the door. The other hand places the hat on his head and sort of tips it down. And without turning, he says, "This is one of them." And he opens the door and takes a step out into the hallway. The door kind of closes behind, and you are left in this air of wanting answers, not sure what this could possibly mean, but you have that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach that whatever it is not good. The scene flashes back, your hand leaves the casket, and you step away from the kneeling bench. Molly, the line progresses. You see You see Friday kind of put his hand on. You see him kneel. You see him leave. The line sort of takes a step forward. Someone kneels, stands, step forward. Repeat the process over and over again. Eventually, it comes to you. You see these same photos. You see these same flowers. You see the bench to kneel in front of this coffin. How do you pay your final respects to Sam Spade?
So Molly, as she's in this line, watches Friday. She's a little kind of sus at how he spoke to her, so she's kind of watched him. Made like a quick glance behind her, maybe trying to catch Artemis's eye just briefly. And then as the line moves forward and it's her time to pay her respect, she oh, Sam. And she reaches into her delightful little clutch and she pulls out a feather, like a small white feather. And when she kneels down, she kind of like tucks it into, like, well, I guess it's a closed casket. So she's going to set it amongst their offerings. I just can't believe, I don't know why you did it, Sam. And she chokes up a little bit. Turns and looks at the picture, stands, and walks.
As you stand, we flash back to the Kingsman. The Kingsman is a rather well-made establishment. It is a gentleman's club in the Vegas style. There are some acrobatic silks. There are lyra hoops all around this place. It is the Cirque du Soleil of gentlemen's clubs. There is a fine mahogany bar. Everything is sort of draped in black curtains. There are wall sconces with the lamps kind of shaded to create this kind of dim atmosphere here. And to counter the gorgeous wood grains and how elegant this place looks, there is just a tacky enough, perfect amount of neon lights underneath the bar, around the stages, and lining the circular leather booths here. Molly, where would you and Sam normally meet at the Kingsman?
So I imagine there's almost like rings of tables that go out from the stage area, and there's some that are sort of tucked. And at the beginning of the night, I would like to think that they would probably start sitting in kind of like one of these booths tucked away from everyone, speaking kind of privately in a quiet corner, like one of the big, like you have to slide in and around.
Yeah, exactly.
Tables. And she's sitting just sort of perched with her legs crossed, leaning towards him as they speak.
On this particular night, about a week ago, what were you guys talking about? This wasn't the usual Sam kind of meeting. He wasn't here to get information from you. He was here to have a drink with an old friend. How did the conversation go?
As they spoke, Molly noticed the difference, because usually when they came, he was, while an enjoyable company, there was a reason, unless he was particularly drunk. And this night, she didn't seem that he was particularly that drunk. He was asking maybe more personal questions than she was used to, because usually it was her listening to his.
Okay. So you're having this conversation where he's sort of, diving into what makes Molly McGee tick, right? There's a pause in the conversation. And again, he has a hand on a glass of whiskey. Single spherical ice cube, as is the Kingsman's, that's their style, right? An egg-shaped floating ice cube. He kind of moves it around in a circle, and you can hear that like even through the din of the noise of this club, you hear that telltale tink 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 of the ice cube sort of bouncing around in there. And he says, You got a good head on your shoulders, kid, but we gotta get you out of here.
Yeah, I know. You said it to me a few times now. But, Sam, it's just kind of the life here. I'm not really sure how I could ever leave it.
Well, I'm working on something. Working on something big. Something that's gonna really shake things up in this town. And if everything goes as planned, at least if everything goes as I hope it will, maybe it's time to clean off that old desk of buddies. Maybe it's time to take a secretary. And it kind of gives you like a nod.
She reaches out and puts a hand like on his wrist. Sammy, you're not gonna get yourself hurt, are you?
Nah, kid. It's never me that gets hurt. It's only the bad guys. And he kind of leans back and he pats his thigh where you know he has a bullet wound. And sort of gives you a wry smile and sort of picks up his drink. And he just sort of holds it off the table and doesn't quite drink it and then puts it back down. He says, "No, I'll be fine."
Well, you've never told me a false story before that I know of. But shaking things up around here, I don't know. That's kind of scary, Sammy.
It is a little bit scary, but you know what? How about this? There was a time, and he begins to start to tell, as you said, you've never told me a full story before. He begins to sort of dive into a full story, sort of evading this line of questioning and kind of placating you with a full story of something that was scary that he made his way out of just fine. And as the sort of cigar-heavy voice of Sam Spade kind of fades, you find yourself back at the wake as you kind of take your hand off the casket, feeling that sense of losing a friend and step forward as the line progresses. Artemis, you see this sort of happen, and you realize there's only 2 more officers in front of you before it is your turn at the casket. They pass, kneel, stand, continue, and before long, it is your turn at this casket. How do you pay your respects to Sam Spade?
Before, when there's a few people in front of her, before she gets there, she pulls out a coin. It's gold. Actually gold. And she's fiddling with it until she gets up there. She looks at both the pictures of him, stops at the cup when she puts the coin on the frame, so it balances there. You weren't supposed to go yet, bud. I still owed you one. She pats the top of the coffin. She doesn't kneel. It's not her thing. She pauses for a moment, thinks, before she decides to walk off.
In that momentary pause, there is a flash of a memory that sort of darts through your head. Describe to me what Artemis's apartment looks like at about 2 o'clock in the morning when you are passed out asleep.
So unlike most of the people at her rank, her position, she actually has a very swanky pad for her neighborhood. She does live in the neighborhood, but she's got something nicer. More for her father's appearances than ours. She could care less. She could be in a studio, but her dad bought her something nice, made it look nice, and she's kept it in all right condition, but she's not, she'll pay somebody to clean. She doesn't really care about the space. I'd say about half the time she makes it to bed, the other half the time she falls asleep on the couch, looking at files, trying to jog her memory on something, looking out over the city in her big window, looking at the few trees that line the streets, the few little bit of garden she has on her balcony, thinking about her mom, thinking about her fucked up family before she passes out for the night.
Where
If
were
she
you
does.
sleeping this night?
Couch.
Okay. So you are asleep on the couch of this swanky-ish pad here. There are files strewn about on the coffee table in front of you. I assume a watery beverage is there as the ice has melted while you were looking over these files. Do you live in the city or do you live in the outskirts of the city?
I'd say she lived where her precinct is, so probably in the city.
Okay, so in the city. So through one of the larger windows, you can see the darkened 2 a.m. skyline of the city, that sort of neon, sort of flashing brightness kind of coming in through the windows here. And what is your ringtone?
Probably picked something default, if not left it as is. She's not very flowery when it comes to music. That's her brother's shit.
That's fair. So you get the full blast at 2 a.m. of the of your cell phone going off.
What the fuck? She answers it, half ready to go to bed, half lost in thought. Hello?
You see the clock on the wall. In the dim light of your apartment, read 2:45 a.m. And you hear a voice on the other side. Art, this is Sam.
Hey, bud, what's up?
Whoever you talk to, this conversation never happened. We need to speak tomorrow. Maybe at noon. The coffee shop on 6th and 21st. Understood? Don't tell anyone this happened.
Yeah, no. Lunch break, hour before that. Got it.
Yep. Okay. This is it. This is something big. Click, and the phone ends. You kind of have this groggy return back to sleep, as if this was almost a dream. The next morning, you wake up trying to remember what this conversation was. 6th and 21st, some kind of lunch. You sort of turn on the TV. And there, on the New Arkham News channel, channel 6, you see a banner sort of stringing along. You see cops on scene. You see that there is a news van with the, antenna fully extended, and someone is reporting over a crime scene. This is not uncommon here in the city. Your detective murders happen all the time. People die left and right. You see the telltale sheet over the body kind of thing, as the officers are doing their best to block out this kind of thing with the yellow caution tape around. And you hear in your kind of hazy, I just woke up sort of morning routine, Sam Spade, detective, retired, deceased. And the news continues to broadcast this death. The Yamashiro Building, these words kind of wash over you in a flood, as if you're still possibly dreaming. And as they wash over you, that's when you take your hand off the casket and take a step forward to join the rest of this procession as one of the final people to pay their respects to Detective Sam Spade. The three of you are still sort of milling about in this church of Our Lady of Celestial Providence. There are people sort of heading out, a few more groups of officers. You see Vidalis kind of nod towards a few officers. He catches your eye, Friday. He nods to you, and he proceeds out as well. As he proceeds out, two men who were sitting the entire time stand in their black on black suits, and they follow out behind him as well. The police commissioner is going around shaking a few hands. He stops and takes a look at you, Artemis. Do you look like you're in the mood to talk to the police commissioner?
She probably doesn't, but she would if you asked.
If you look like you're in a mood, he kind of acknowledges it, and he gives you a curt nod, and he kind of raises a hand as if to say, this is like a cordial greeting, and he sort of goes on his way. Soon the room is from 40 people down to about 20 people, and you three are in this group of 20 people. What are you doing, and how do you eventually leave this place?
I know before before anybody leaves, she's probably going to try to get Molly by herself and ask her about her new friend because she could tell that was uncomfortable.
Sure.
Ask her if she needs a ride.
Speaking of new friends, Friday, what are you doing?
Taking in the entire situation again, looking at Molly, paying attention to what she's doing and paying attention to Artemis as well. Really just kind of seeing who's kind of loitering and finding their,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Molly, what are you doing before Artemis approaches you?
Molly has gotten, you said there was like food and drink.
Yeah, like little
some
piggies.
tables.
Yep.
She's just got like a little clear plastic cup, that they have of just some water. And she's just quietly kind of just sipping it. And she's kind of been watching Artemis to see if she's going to come over to her because they know each other a little bit. She's just kind of waiting and watching.
Artemis, the floor is yours.
Hey, how's it going? I mean, how you doing, Molly?
Well, even here, I've seen brighter days.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. It's not sitting right, is it?
There may be a lot of things I don't really understand, but this one, I don't know what to think about it, Ari.
Something ain't right, and they're trying to close it up as fast as they can, so I don't know what I'm gonna be able to do, but I'm looking. Somebody that makes plans doesn't kill themselves. She looks at her for a moment.
Molly's gonna look back and as they make eye contact, she's gonna glance away and look at the parties that are around us. Are there any people that Molly might notice would be close enough to be sort of trying to listen to what they're talking about?
Friday, are you close enough to listen to what you're talking about?
Oh, no. I'm just a human. I'm a studier of human, behavior. I don't need to read their lips or whatever or listen to them. So
there's people that are close enough to hear a normal volume conversation, but you don't get the impression they're actually listening to your conversation, Molly.
Okay. Molly's gonna, as she kind of sees that they're kind of alone in this, she's gonna kind of step closer and put a shoulder almost to Artemis's shoulder and kind of lean and whisper into her ear. I'm not really sure if this is the place, maybe we should talk. Why don't you come and see me at the club later?
I was actually going to ask you if you needed a ride or something. Your new friend across the way there seemed to kind of creep you out. Is he somebody you know?
She gets a look of kind of on her face because it was such a strange and she's used to encounters, but she doesn't like people questioning her unless she knows who it is. It never ends well when people start asking her questions. I don't know. I've never seen him before.
Yeah, he looks familiar to
strange.
Me, but I can't place it. Yeah.
They were asking me all kinds of questions.
Art takes a moment. She looks over at him, looks back to her. Whatever you want. I can come to work, or I could drop you off. Whatever's better for you. She rolls her eyes for a second. You've seen my asshole brother lately? He hasn't been checking in.
Oh, geez. No, I've not seen him in a while now.
Oh, really? Artemis looks a little too hopeful for a moment.
Wow.
So, well, if you hear from him...
2 octaves. Oh.
If you hear from him, tell him to check in. But, interesting to hear. He followed you around for quite a bit there.
Yeah. He doesn't even come by the club anymore.
Interesting. Fair enough. Thanks for that.
But I'll take a ride, save me the cab fare.
Oh yeah, of course, not a problem.
So, as you two begin to leave this church, Friday, you see this interaction, although you can't hear what it is. You see the kind of shoulder bump, lean in kind of thing. You do hear a hopeful "oh" from Artemis as the loudest part of the conversation, and then the two ladies leave the place. You are left in here as this place is clearing out. Friday, what are you doing as the crowd thins and thins and thins?
I'm going to be casual and just sort of hang back, being the last person there.
Okay. So
and when that happens, I'm going to pay for a little bit of privacy with Sam.
Interesting. Okay. So the crowd begins to thin out. The last of the officers leave. The last of the mourners kind of leave. And there's a good 30 seconds of silence before you see an older gentleman, probably 75, 80, sort of toddle out from the back of this establishment and into this room, this morning room. And he notices you and he stops. And you can see that he's in a suit, but it's not a very nice suit. He's probably not here to pay respects. He might be, in fact, the purveyor of this place. And he stops and says, "Oh, I thought we were all done. Are you all set, sir?"
And you might be?
Tobias Finch. And he kind of motions to, like, the ceiling. This is, I work and live here.
Are you of the religious faith that this church is associated with, or are you just a caretaker?
I own the establishment. I'm not the pastor here, but it serves double duty as below is the mortuary. There is an internment.
Would it be possible for me to get a private moment with my friend?
Oh, of course, sir. And he leaves and sort of nods to you, and he closes the door to this room, and you are left utterly alone with some sandwiches and Sam Spade.
Moving very quickly, Friday would head over and examine the coffin, and if not noticing anything specific, would then open the casket.
Sure. It's a nondescript casket, right? It's not like the most well-to-do. You can tell it's not a high-end model, as it were. It's kind of middle of the road. And you slide several of the items over, and you kind of open the head of the casket. You see Sam Spade. You can tell that there has been some work done. You know that he allegedly took a great fall. He looks as well as they could make him, but everyone seemed to be more comfortable with a closed sort of casket. But you see him, arms crossed over the chest, eyes closed, 2 coins on the eyes, as is custom in this church here. Tie. He looks very similar to the picture of him in a suit, minus the fedora.
I would like to spend the time and actually investigate the body.
Alrighty. So, we're going to have our first roll here. This is an investigate roll. What power tags are you going to try to sell me on to roll for this investigation move?
Consulting criminal.
Okay. I'll buy that.
Mastermind.
Okay, I can see how that would apply. You got one more if you can sell it.
That's it.
Okay, so roll me investigate with +2 juice here. Let's see what this roll is. We have a 10. So you have 2 power. In the future, we just check the little things off and it should auto-calculate your power. So you have 2 clues here. You ask me one-to-one questions and I will answer them to the best of my ability. What 2 questions do you have? What 2 clues do you have for this investigation?
What's unusual about the body that isn't explained by the fall?
How are you examining this body? Are you getting in there?
So Friday doesn't have like his emotional attachment or their emotional attachment. I keep screwing up the pronouns.
That's okay.
Their emotional attachment to Sam was for the living. Now they are in a cold and calculating situation, trying to gather as much information as possible.
Okay.
So all of the things that would be that the respects that would go to a normal person may be out the window in a normal case. For one of Friday's friends, there's an extra level of that, sort of like distancing. But this is Sam. This is somebody that they have worked with repeatedly on both sides of sort of the line of what is and what isn't good. And he would be desperate to want to know. So he is going to get his hands in there, or they're going to get their hands in there. Mm-hmm. They're going to use everything that they are aware of. They are a student of crime, and they are going to, just use every possible way to be able to examine that body that is available to them in the shortest amount of time.
Sure. So you kind of get your hands in there, and the thing you notice that is unusual about this situation is when you kind of pull back the eyelid of Sam's face, you see the typical blue eyes that he had, these pale blue ocean eyes. You see that in the iris of his eye, almost imperceptible unless you were doing exactly what you're doing at a close range. There's like a green circle in the iris surrounding the iris. Or the
surrounding the iris between the blue and the black of the iris itself.
Mm-hmm. Correct. There was like a thin, pale green sort of line.
Now, are we talking about? And you can let me know if this is a second question, and then
sure.
I might pass back from it. But are we talking about something that would be noticeable to the naked eye, or would you really have to get in close? You'd have to
be either examining his eyes or as close as you are to his eyes. There's no way that if you were standing at a casual speaking distance, you would notice this.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Second question.
Sure.
After finishing examining the body, I would then close the casket back.
Okay.
And look at all of the affectations and trinkets and pieces of memorabilia or remembrances, flowers, coins, bottles of whiskey or whatever that Sam appreciated. All of it. Mm-hmm. What stands out to me?
In one of the smaller things of flowers here, as if hidden, you see a shitty guitar pick.
Is it specifically? Is it something that specifically, is there like a band, or is there like a logo on there specifically? Is it what is really unique about this guitar pick?
This guitar pick seems well loved, right? This is a well-used guitar pick, as if it potentially meant more to the person who owned the guitar pick than the person it was given to. This is a personally sentimental item that someone has given at the death of Sam Spade. Your best guess is it has little to no meaning to Sam at all. So it's fairly nondescript. It's yellow. You could see that there used to be a faded. There used to be something on it that, like, after enough thumb plucks, right, it's kind of worn off underneath the pressure of your hand. It's hard to tell what that could have been, but like I said, this seems well used. It's chipped in places. It's worn. This is a favorite guitar pick of someone.
Okay, so as quickly as they had started, they would put everything back in place as best as they could.
Sure.
And push everything sort of just back into place. and just kind of take a look around the room, see if I was being watched.
As far as you can tell, no one's here.
And then I would go find Mr. Finch.
Okay. Do you take the guitar pick?
I do.
Okay. So you sort of put your hand on the door, and standing in front of the double door to leave the building is Mr. Finch. And he's just sort of, he's sitting there, his arms are kind of crossed down by his waist, very like Butler-esque, as he sort of stands there in front of the double doors, just sort of waiting for you to be finished. And as soon as the door kind of creaks open, he says, are you all set, sir?
I believe so, thank you. May I ask you a question?
Yes, anything.
What is planned for the body now that the wake is done?
Oh, I'm sorry. And he reaches into a inner breast pocket and hands you a small, not a business card, but probably like a 2x3 like index card kind of thing. This is the burial. The funeral is tomorrow morning. I thought this had been given out to everyone. And he hands you this with the directions to where the burial site is.
And one more question, and
please.
I will make it worth your time. Who is paying for all of this?
I don't actually know. The contract came in, fully paid, no name. The check was made out to cash.
Interesting. Is that unusual?
He kind of has like a grim smile, and he says, "Not in this town."
Friday will put their hands in their pocket, kind of think off, kind of go spacey for a second, kind of look off in the distance and say, huh. And out they'll bring a $100 bill.
Mm-hmm.
And just hold it between two fingers, folded, in front of Mr. Finch. Thank you. Consider yourself a friend. And I take care of my friends.
Thank you, sir. And he sort of reaches out and takes the $100 bill, waiting for the other shoe to drop, and sort of folds it in half again, and sort of slides it in his pocket, and steps out of the way of the door.
Have a lovely evening.
You as
and
well,
he'll
sir.
step out into the rain.
So, the procession ends here at the wake. We cut to the morning. Actually, I'm sorry, Molly and Artemis, did you guys would like a scene on the car ride home? Is there anything you would like to discuss?
That's all up to Molly.
Is there anything
Artemis is just going to be
like to canoodle?
Awkward as F the entire time.
Sure.
I imagine they're probably just having casual, conversation, nothing overly deep right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
With everything.
Molly, where do you have Artemis drive you? Just so I know.
So I think Molly has taken the next few days off from the club. She is in mourning. And so Molly's quite happy about getting this because the cab fare, because she doesn't like taking the train, she doesn't feel overly safe when she takes the train, would have been quite high because surprisingly, Molly doesn't live in the nicest part of town.
What?
she dresses quite well and is taken care of in that way, but she lives towards the outskirts of the town. It's not dangerous. It's not a bad part of town, but it's not the nicest.
Sure.
Kind of the houses, the older, maybe 40 years ago they were quite nice, but just I'm trying to imagine you got the window and a door and a stoop, you know, and they're all kind of do
like row houses, like Philadelphia,
yeah.
Maryland row houses. Yeah. I
Gotcha.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a pretty decent little drive through the city.
Okay.
To taking her home.
Excuse me. So yeah, you have this awkward small talk, Artemis, as you drive to Molly's house to let her out of the car and safely arrive home before you return to where? Do you head back home? Do you head to the precinct?
No, she's gonna go to the office, go to work. She's
Okay.
gonna look over her most recent cases for anything that seems out of place, anything near that building.
Okay.
And she's gonna walk her beat, maybe go a little bit outside of it, walk around this building, get an idea of that area. I would assume that this building is like right outside her beat.
Yeah, so the Yamashiro Building is the highest building in New Arkham City. It is a well-known building. It is where the headquarters of one of the largest industrial science and technology sort of firms is. The lower half of the building is miscellaneous office buildings. It's not dedicated to one industry here. So it's one of the most well-known buildings in the city. So you could see it from anywhere in the city, and you could easily get to it from your precinct, which I assume is in the heart of the city, kind of thing.
Yeah.
This sounds like an investigation role if you're interested in kind of walking a beat around there.
We're going to see how my laptop does this.
Yeah, so for investigate, the way it works is you look at your power tags, you look at your theme books, and you tell me which of your power tags you think apply to you investigating this current scene here. And I will say yay or nay, and then we roll for that shit.
I'm going to go with police officer.
Okay.
Photographic memory.
Okay.
I'm assuming being this is a nicer building that there's probably some trees and bushes and maybe random city wildlife.
There is, like, on the walk-up, there's probably, like 2 trees on either side, right, kind of thing, and, like, a stone, cylindrical thing that has, like, shrubbery in it, right, to give some level of green.
She's going to have a quick eye contact with some sort of bird that's in one of the trees and then go about her investigation.
Okay,
so
sure.
Aspects of nature?
I will allow aspects of nature for this one. So check those all off, and then in the top left corner, go ahead and hit that investigate button for me. Let's see what you roll. Ooh, an 8. Okay, so with an 8, you have succeeded. However, I get to be a little bit misleading. So you have 3 power on this one. So you have 3 clues to ask me, and I get to choose the following. Either your investigation exposes you to danger, the clues you get are fuzzier or incomplete, or whoever or whatever you're asking the questions about can ask one of you, which is me and this current scene. Okay, so what are your 3 questions?
Where he landed.
You don't have to ask a question for that. That one is visible to you. There's not markings anymore, but you can kind of see where things were marked off in like, it's a rainy city, so it's kind of a denser chalk, so you can see where he landed. It seems to be the eastern side of the building.
East. Okay. If I look up, what do I see?
You see a high rise of buildings. It is just this probably is close to 100 stories. It's 100 floors in this building. It's quite massive. So you can see the tippy top of this building, and you see the sky beyond.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Nothing out of the ordinary in that one.
Okay.
Keep in mind, you can go as specific or as broad as you want with some of these questions as well. They just have to be about this kind of scene.
Is there a list of businesses that are particular to the east side of the building?
As in buildings that might have cameras or see this facing?
No, just the businesses in the building itself.
Oh, in the building. Sure.
That are, yeah.
Easily. You can have that. In fact, you can actually have that forwarded right to your desk at work. I will provide you with a list of those things. I don't have them off the top of my head what buildings are in here, what businesses are in here, so to speak. But yes,
there send me the suspicious ones.
Yeah, I'll send you a list of them. You can kind of go through. So yeah, you can easily get a list of those. So I'll take that as one of your clues, right? You can get a list of all the businesses on the eastern side of this kind of thing.
And the other thing I'm gonna do. 2 more? Okay.
Yep, 2 more.
So you're gonna need me exposed to danger anyway. I'm gonna see if I
could leave you
can.
exposed to danger.
Yeah, I'm gonna be that asshole. I'm gonna go to the front desk and ask if Sam had any appointments with anybody that day,
Okay.
or what time he was seen coming into the building.
Okay. You see there is a security guard. There's two of them at the desk. They are relatively well built. They don't seem like your typical security guard, as you know, ones that live a quite sedentary lifestyle. These seem like if you took a mixed martial artist and put him in a mall cop suit,
Gotcha.
kind of thing, right? They look to you. They check you in. They say, "Yes, officer. Sam Spade." And they kind of motions out of the front door.
Yeah, that one.
We were asked by the precinct. Sam didn't actually have any appointments here. In fact, there was a shift changeover that night, and we think he might have slipped in during an information pass down.
You can give me a time frame?
Of the shift change?
Yes.
Yes, it was 1:30 a.m. on... And he rattles off a date, and you know that it's the same date that he called you at 2:45.
Thank you. She's gonna thank him, shake his hand, nod to the other guy, and she's gonna walk from there to the restaurant they were supposed to meet at.
Okay. You walk to that restaurant, and you have one more clue.
She's gonna look for the hostess or whoever seems like they're in charge.
Sure.
And ask them how they knew Sam. Because she feels like there's a connection. There's a reason why he picked this place.
Sure.
While he was shaken.
Yeah. Okay. So you see this woman here. This is like a. They're probably closing at this point in time, right? It's probably like 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. It's like a diner. It seems like this is probably one of those like, oh, this is like one of the oldest diners in the city kind of thing, right? That's why it's here in like this nicer down city kind of part of town. And you see a woman in the typical like Flo's diner kind of outfit with the pink poofy kind of sleeves, the white apron is sewn into it kind of thing. And she says, ma'am, I didn't actually know Mr. Spade. He had been coming in here for a few weeks. At kind of random times of the day, he would order a black coffee, and he would sit right here. And she points to the table by the window. He always sat in the seat closest to the door.
She's going to ask if she could have a quick coffee. She's not going to make a mess. Mm-hmm. She just wants to sit there. Ask if they met, if he was meeting anybody or if he was there by himself.
He was always here by himself. He seemed to have a notepad, and that was it. He didn't really talk to anyone. He just ordered the coffee. He was here for maybe 30 to 45 minutes every time he visited, and then he left. He was real nice.
Thank you. She gives her way too much money for the coffee.
Sure.
Obviously, thanking her and staying while they're trying to clean up and close and stuff.
Yep.
She's going to go sit at the table, and in between them being busy, she's going to lift up the cushion. She's going to check under the table,
sure.
See if he had left anything, just in case.
You begin looking around this table, and I assume this is your clue here. What you get as you begin to like feel under the table, look under the cloth real quick, feel underneath the seat. There's nothing on this table that is suspicious, but when you finally kind of like harumph and just sort of sit down into this chair, and you kind of look down at the coffee, wondering what the hell was Sam doing here, you kind of look up, and from where you're standing, you have a perfect vantage point to look at the front entrance to the Yamashiro Building.
He was watching somebody. Got it.
That is your clue there. Cool. Interesting. And as we cut away, we fade comic book style between the panels here. The camera pans out of the glass window that emblazons the diner's name on this kind of thing. And you see that rotate towards a blacked out car that looks very similar, however, slightly smaller than the one that Vidalis pulled into. As you stare at the building, the Yamashiro Building, the driver's side window rolls up and drives off before you even notice it's there. You have been exposed to danger. That being said, we cut to the morning. All of you, I assume, are standing in the rain in your black dresses, black pantsuits, black suits, umbrellas overhead as you watch the casket of Sam Spade lowered into the ground at the local cemetery of the city. You see that there are officers in their full dress blues. They turn on a right angle. They raise their rifle into the air, and you hear them pull the rifle back down. You hear them bring it back up. Each time it like click clacks as they give a police officer's salute as he is lowered into the ground. You find many of the same usual suspects of the night before, and the three of you are all there together in the rainy, misty morning as Sam is laid to his final rest. Do any of the three of you say anything to each other, or do you just kind of meander away?
I think Molly is standing probably next to Artemis for this, sort of tucked under an umbrella.
Is your arm locked
Probably
around
there's-
hers?
Artemis would let this happen, but she's actually slightly somber today. But
Yeah,
she
I don't think so. I think they're just kind of
near each other.
maybe shoulders almost touching. Umbrellas probably hooked over on the sides as they stand and watch. Molly's quiet, but she has a little shake to her hands right now.
Okay. Is it a noticeable shake? Would Artemis notice this?
Probably.
Okay. So Artemis, you notice that. Is there anything you're doing about that, or are you just kind of accepting the fact that it is a chill, rainy day and you guys are burying a friend?
She suspects things, knowing her association with her brother and what her brother liked to do. That not being at work, she may not have the supplies she normally does.
Sure.
Or she's just not doing, her coping mechanism is not doing the things she normally does. So that's Artemis's line of thinking on it.
Okay.
Is that she could like pat her on the back, but like she knows there's nothing she can actually do.
Sure. Friday, you are here as well. You notice an absence of Anatoly Vidalis. However, you notice there's several of the same people you saw yesterday. None of which look like they would be the person who would leave a guitar pick before you ask. What are you doing in this somber scene?
Also taking note of everyone that he would they would consider absent from this particular situation.
Sure.
On top of Vidalis, the two individuals that followed Vidalis out, for example.
Yep. Also not here.
Is Finch here?
Finch is not here, but that makes sense to you. He seems to be the caretaker / owner of the establishment and not someone who works on the burial grounds. It's two separate places.
Okay. And taking in, anyone else that they would know, and then kind of sort of settling his gaze or their gaze again, specifically on Molly and Artemis.
Okay. So in typical noir fashion and the way cinematic things happen in movies, the police officers shoulder their rifles, they stand, they all march as one in a single file, and the camera sort of pans up and everyone sort of scatters, and the three of you are left here inauspiciously together before you all have a second to turn off. Is there anything that the three of you do in each other's company before you all leave?
Molly.
I'm gonna text my brother while he's saying that. Ask him if he's around, what he's doing, if he's playing any shows.
Sure.
Her phone isn't facing him, but she might mention if she gets a response.
There's a cool over-the-shoulder kind of camera shot as you sort of pull the hand opposite from Molly out, and you begin to text your brother.
Yeah.
And what the camera sees is there are no less than 7 text messages on the screen that say, "Hey, Where are you? Hey, what's up?
How you
Hey,
doing?
please call me. How are you? That kind of thing. Your brother has responded to none of them.
Yeah.
They have been, what the screen can see right now is the last 3 days there have been no responses to any of your messages, concerns, calls, etc., etc. As you hit send and slide your phone back into your coat pocket, you hear that silky voice of Friday say, Molly, detective.
Mister, I don't think I caught your name. She extends her hand.
My name is Alexander Miller, but my friends call me Friday. Like Molly here.
She looks at Molly, looks at him. Nice to meet you, Mr. Miller. You two, you hang at the club a lot, or you just know each other?
I'm a frequent visitor of the Kingsman, but I've never had the pleasure of Molly's talents.
Artemis blushes a little. Well, there's a lot of people that go to see her.
Well, she's very talented, is what you almost said. Oh, man. Juicy.
If I am lucky enough one day to partake of such services, I would imagine I would have the same assessment. Detective. Can I call you detective? Should I refer to you in some other way?
Detective art doesn't really matter to me.
Detective. Isn't it strange the absence of certain individuals here? Don't you find that a little surprising?
Sometimes in these cases, they make one big grand gesture, funeral, after party, the wake the other day, and then slide back into the shadows. They don't like to go to all of the things unless it's like actually a family member in most cases. They just make their gesture, make sure the right people see it, and then...
Yes, I would tend to agree with you in most circumstances. But there are clearly individuals here who are not here that I would expect to be so. Don't you find that a little strange?
There's a lot about
Totally not being here.
a lot about Mr. Smith's passing that doesn't sit right with me, but fortunately it didn't happen in my precinct, so I have to...
Now, detective, I know your reputation. That's never stopped you before. Sam spoke highly of you.
You're right. I'm still waiting to get a conversation with the chief, but he's been rather busy this week, so I should have talked to him at the wake, I guess.
Is there anything that really strikes you as odd about this? I mean, Sam didn't seem the suicidal type.
No, most people that have plans don't kill themselves. She gives him a look. Sees his reaction.
Plans? I knew Sam pretty well, considered him a good friend and not just a friend. I didn't know he had plans.
Some people make big plans. Some people make little plans. Usually suicide is something that is planned out, among other things. And when it's done, it is done with the thought of not making future plans. In fact, many people that do such an act will stop communicating, stop making appointments. Sam is still making appointments. She kind of looks him over to keep watching his reactions.
Oh, he kept an appointment with me the day before this all occurred.
Oh.
Did he keep an appointment with you too?
She looks at him. No, didn't make it to mine. Raises her eyebrows at him.
Say anything strange? Sound like a maniac?
You know, Sam, when he was passionate about something, he was passionate about it.
I've never known Sam to not want my help when he desperately needed it. And Sam desperately needed my help.
What kind of help did you give Sam?
I answer questions. I get to know people. I get to be in the right circles at the right time for the right situations. I have a lot of friends. And sometimes those friends do things that are not the nicest.
Yeah.
I helped Sam with that.
Molly, you are standing here close to Artemis as this conversation sort of happens around you. It started talking about you, but not including you in it. And then it descended into a work conversation. And you're a smart girl. From what you've picked up in your other endeavors, this kind of sounds like they both had a working friendship with Sam in the same kind of capacity as you did, but on opposite sides of the coin, right? Artemis seems to have come from a police officer approach, whereas Friday seems to be less than police officerly approach to things. What are you doing as this kind of conversation awkwardly happens around you?
Honestly, Molly, like, she's used to people talking about her as if she's not there.
Sure.
It happens in her line of work. But as she kind of scoffs and rolls her eyes as things are sort of said about her.
Watching the bad game of chess that we're playing.
Yeah, but she's listening. She's not really focusing in on what is being said.
Sure.
She seems a bit in a daze, just like she's not taking in the day very well. Maybe a bit nervous. So her focus isn't on, and it'll probably be noticeable to both of them. She's kind of just eyes glazed over, sort of just looking out at the rain.
Okay. So Friday and Artemis, your conversation continues, and as you kind of come to that awkward chess game of each of you trying to weasel information out of the other without actually saying anything of importance, you do notice that Molly is sort of stoically staring out at nothing.
No. Hey, Molly, you need a coffee or a water or something? Just a little. You all right?
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I could probably use a coffee or maybe something, maybe a bite to eat, settle the nerves.
I do feel like you and I have more to talk about, Mr. Miller. She's gonna hand him a card. However you want to continue that, it's up to you. You know what I do. I have enough idea.
I know how to get in touch with you. It's not a problem. Thank you. It's not a thing I tend to trade in cards and all. I do have something for you, though.
What's that?
Consider this a gesture of goodwill. I'm very curious to stay on top of things. I want to know what happened to Sam. I need to know what happened to Sam.
You, me, looks at Molly, her too. I imagine there's a few of us head circles we haven't even touched yet that having the same thoughts. So you let me know.
Well, like I said, consider this a gesture of goodwill, and maybe this will help you along the path. I have some questions of my own, but maybe this will work. And he pulls or they pull an envelope out of their jacket and hand it over to the detective, and begins to walk away.
Do you open?
What if I need to reach you? She's gonna say to him.
You know how to find me, detective. I'm always around.
She opens up the envelope
and finds the guitar pick.
So
But I recognize this guitar pick.
as you slide your finger into the envelope, opening it, you see as you sort of tent it out, this yellow guitar pick, well used, well loved, and you recognize it immediately.
I'm going to show it to Molly. Because I bet she would recognize it too.
Molly, you also recognize this guitar pick. This guitar pick belonged to your ex-boyfriend? Your ex, whatever he was. This guitar pick belongs to Artemis's brother. Artemis's twin brother.
Yes.
Molly's heart kind of drops when she sees it because she's also not heard from him and was assuming that Artemis hasn't either. And she looks at the pick up to Artemis and turns her head to watch Friday as they walk away. Where do you think you got that?
Oh no, and I don't think I want to know, but I'm gonna find out. She won't touch the pick. She'll fold up the envelope, touch it in her put it in her pocket. She walks Ollie to the car. She texts her dad.
What do you text your dad?
Do you know where Apollo is? I need to see him as soon as possible.
Okay. The text sends. There is no immediate response. Are you and Molly arriving or departing in the same vehicle?
I would assume same thing. She needs a ride home. Artemis doesn't mind driving. It's cheaper for her. She'll probably stop, get her a coffee, ask her if she needs any food because she can tell she's withdrawing from something, alcohol, drugs, both.
Sure. As you slide into the passenger seat, Molly, and you into the driver's seat, Artemis, the camera sort of pans back over this somber, gray, misty graveyard, this cemetery here. And we have that gray and black shot of a lone tree in the graveyard, and some hooded figure leans on it and sort of pushes themselves off, tightens the hoodie around their head, jams their hands into the kangaroo pouch in the front, and sort of stomps off screen. And because we hit the corruption bar today, you begin your journey to wherever you're going to get coffee, a sandwich, anything of the kind. And on your mobile police scanner, because this is your personal vehicle, you hear a call come through the radio. The call says... 1062, any available units, 1062 at 325 Washington Street. Both of your ears perk up. 325 Washington Street is the headquarters of the Ace of Spades Detective Agency. Artemis, your ears particularly perk up as a 1062 is a breaking and entering. Mm-hmm. As this call comes across the radio, the camera cuts to Mr. Alexander Miller as he is approaching his vehicle. You hear a brr, 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 brr in your pocket as your cell phone rings.
They pull their phone out of their pocket, look at the number.
It is a number you recognize. It is a nondescript number. It's not saved in your phone, as I don't feel a lot of numbers are saved in your phone for various reasons. Do you answer?
So am I going to recognize the... If I recognize
it's an associate of yours. Sorry.
Okay. He would definitely answer.
You answer the phone. It is
they would answer.
It is a recognizable voice to yours. It is one of your underlings, and he reports into you, boss. The building you had me watch, the detective thing, the agency. Someone just broke in. They tossed the place and left.
Are you following them?
And you hear that stutter of "I definitely wasn't." Yeah. I'm on it. And then you hear the telltale of a car engine start.
Don't let me find out you lost them.
You got it, boss. And there's that nervous sort of, end of the conversation.
And it's a clamshell phone.
Of course it is.
And they, it's a burner phone basically. And he closes it and he looks back over at Detective Artemis and Molly and sees how they're reacting, if they've gotten the information yet.
Artemis is saying she's throwing a siren on the top of her personal vehicle and putting the pedal to the metal, and she's like, I got you coffee, but I might need you to sit in the car for a little bit. Is that okay? And she's already happy.
So as you look over Friday,
not even waiting for an answer, she's like, I'm going to this. You're coming with me. Hey, sorry.
As you look over to see their reaction, you see the hand in the jacket come out and put that little siren on top. And the camera cuts to an uptown office building in a centrally located office. On this nondescript floor, there are cork boards left and right. There are piles of paper. There is a well-used computer, and there is a journalist who is scrambling to pick up his things as his police scanner in his office is tuned to this frequency of the new Arkham PD police frequency, and he hears 1062 at 325 Washington Street. You see him hit a few buttons, the computer screen fades, and he is pulling a jacket over his shoulder as he leaves. And that is where we end the first episode of Paradise City of all the gin joints. Welcome to this shit show.
It was great.
It was fantastic. Good job, dude.
Cool.
I know you're nervous. This was awesome.
I've never run the game before, and I'm not a detective-y boy. So I'm glad you guys liked it. I'm glad we hit that bar. I'm glad I got to throw some B&E shit at you guys. That should be fun. Now we've tossed the office. Okay, cool. I'll work with that as I make things up as we go. Great. Let's go around, do our introductions, get the hell out of here, and let everyone go about their business. We'll start with the player for one of the first times ever on unMadeGaming. Johnny, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what are you up to, my dude?
Johnny, Video Store Cowboy everywhere except on Twitter. You all know the drill about that. Tomorrow, I will be starting up a Tales from the Loop West Marches style game on my own channel. 2 hours a week, different players each time. We're going to explore some of those sort of weirdness of what's going on in the world right now within the lens of, kids just trying to navigate and deal with it. So if you want to come check it out, Video Store Cowboy, twitch.tv/Video Store Cowboy. And if you want to sign up and play, tomorrow's game is full, but next week hasn't been cast yet. So there's a sign up sheet pinned to my Twitter account. So there you go.
Super awesome. We'll toss it over to Cherry. Who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? What are you up to?
Cherry Babom on Twitch, CherryBabom7 on Twitter, Cherry Babom most other places. I'll be doing role play stuff again this week, a little bit of nursing, a little bit of starting a lady gang.
Ooh.
Because who doesn't want to get beat up by chicks?
Gang.
All those sort of things. Maybe some tarot, trying to squeeze some in some weird times, doing some weird shit. It's kind of, it is and isn't the time for it. So come on by and have some fun sometime.
Hell yeah. And last but not least, Kitty, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? What are you up to?
Hi, I'm Awkward Kitty Inc. I am a freelance artist and a streamer here on Twitch. I do a lot of role play. I make a lot of art. I have a good time. You can find me everywhere as Awkward Kitty Inc. And I'm excited. I'm really excited about the show.
Sweet.
Today was a lot of fun.
I'm glad everyone liked it. I'm glad everyone liked it. I'm glad everyone showed up. I'm glad we had such fun interaction. Thank you guys for all the tips, all the follows, all the subs, all that fun stuff. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. We're going to get out of here. We're going to do our Patreon-only after show right after this, and then I'm going to go to work. So that being said, from all of us to you guys, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.